Welcome to Conversation Collage, that podcast where we talk with interesting people and we talk about the things they're interested in. I'm Ken Johannesson, and I greet you where it is a nice, beautiful, sunny, cloudless day here in the apple capital of the world, in the buckle of the power belt of the great Northwest, Wenatchee, Washington. And but it's cold. It's 38 degrees. And I think that's a Chamber of Commerce temperature. I don't really think it's that warm because I just went outside and I was shivering. Anyway, Ken Johannesson here. Hope you're doing okay. We've got a good show for you this time, I think. We're going to talk about a financial scam that somebody has written about, and we'll also talk about motor vehicles and motor trends, cars of the year, okay? So that's coming up a little later on. First, we'll start off with a very interesting gentleman by the name of Stephen Maitland Lewis. He has quite a resume to him. He was a barrister in London. He was a banking executive. He was a hotel owner down in Palm Springs, restaurant owner. He has done marketing for a newspaper in Los Angeles. But he was also involved in a money laundering scheme, and he has written about his exploits in a fiction novel, although it's very autobiographical, as he'll say. The novel is called Duped, and it is brand new and out now, and we had a very nice conversation with Stephen Maitland Lewis. Your latest book, which is it number 6 that you've written now?
Yes.
Duped.
Yes.
Tell me about it. How did it come about?
Well, it came about actually way back in the 1990s when the Nigerian scam issue was very, very prevalent. Mm-hmm. And I was actually caught up in it as a victim. Oh. And I fell for it. I mean, stupid me. I fell for it, and I made 3 very hazardous trips to Nigeria and was very lucky to have got out with my life. And when I came back, I wrote a non-fiction book about the experience. Mm-hmm. One of my neighbors in Palm Springs, where I was living at the time, was the author Harold Robbins. Uh-huh. And he and I became very, very good friends, and I remain a very good friend of his widow. Mm-hmm. And Harold read my book, and he said, in his inimitable style, which I don't suppose I can use the word he said, mm-hmm. but he was very negative about it. And he said, Stephen, this book you've written is non-fiction. You must rewrite it as fiction. He said, I would give my right hand for this story. Write it as fiction. It's a great book. Don't write it as non-fiction. So I did. I wrote it as fiction. And I went through 1 round of edits, 2 rounds of edits, 3 or 4 rounds of edits. And finally, I got the required manuscript that satisfied a publisher. And here is the book. It's based upon a true story, but there's a lot of poetic license in it. Okay. Tell me about Sam Marsh, who is the, I guess, the protagonist in this. Who is he? Stephen Maitland Lewis. He is. Okay. Did you have to ask? I didn't. I just thought I kind of figured it was you, but what kind of a guy is he? Well, he's the schmuck you're talking to right now. well. In any event, let's talk about what Stephen Marsh gets into. He is a hotel owner here, and he gets a call or a letter or an email. How does he get involved in all of this? Basically, he is a hotel owner in Palm Springs, California, having been in banking for his entire professional career, apart from a couple of years as a lawyer. And he had no business to buy and run a hotel because he knew nothing about it apart from being a client of hotels and restaurants over the years. So the hotel was full every night. It was doing great business, but somehow Stephen wasn't able to control it properly. And I was getting pretty desperate to put the hotel on a good, even keel and into profitability, out of the red and into the black. And it was pretty much the days before internet became so popular. It was all fax machines, faxes in those days. And a fax came my way, inviting participation in what looked like a good Nigerian deal. And of course, it was a scam. And had I had my head screwed on, and had I not been so hungry for a good deal, I would have probably tossed it. But I took a chance. And it went from there. And it involved 3 trips, which were exhausting, dangerous, and expensive. But I got out alive. Some people who also fell for these tricks did not get out alive. But, I was held up at gunpoint on one occasion, kept against my will in a house as opposed to the Sheraton Hotel or whatever the hotel was where I was supposed to be staying. It was fraud. Yeah.
Who got you into this? Do you know the people who said, "Hey, Stephen, I got a deal for you"?
Yeah. Next question. I don't want to implicate anyone.
Well, without giving names, you know who they were.
Of course, yes. Of course.
Were they associates? Or were not associates, but were they people you knew?
I didn't know any of the Nigerians, but I knew the person who brought the deal to me.
Kind of who facilitated it in some way, huh?
Exactly.
Okay, all right. It says here you got involved in a money laundering scheme. I've heard that phrase since I was a kid, but yet I still don't understand it. What exactly is money laundering?
Money laundering is, in a nutshell, where a person or a corporation earns money, and the money is, shall I say, suspect from a dubious source. It could be through drugs, it can be through whatever, arms deals.
Okay.
And they need to hide that. They need to hide the source of the funds, one way or another. Hide the origin of the source of the funds. That's, in a nutshell, what money laundering is.
How do they do it, though?
Well, they're very, very sophisticated, and they have ways and means which change all the time because the regulations change, so they have to dodge the regulations. So what may be possible, let's say, to money launder in the year 2000 may not be possible to do in 2010, 15, or 16, or 20. They look for loopholes, and it's got harder and harder because of international treaties and the liaison between international banks. The Swiss banks now are a little more transparent than what they used to be. And it has got harder, but there will always be ways and means. There will always be villains, and there'll always be bad apples at central banks or commercial banks that will turn a blind eye.
Was the scheme that Sam Marsh, a.k.a. Stephen Maitland Lewis, gets into, is that a scheme that is possible today?
Yes, I would say so. With certain third world countries, it's certainly possible. You'd need, or anyone wanting to do that would need the cooperation and collusion and involvement with 2 or 3 banks to do it. It couldn't be done in isolation.
Right. At what point, when you were going through this, was there a point that said, "Hold it, Stephen, what are you getting into? This isn't kosher," to use a phrase. Was there some point where you said, "I've got to get out of this"?
Oh, numerous times, and I should have listened to what I should have listened to my inner voice, and I should have listened more to a friend with whom I was discussing this deal.
Uh-huh.
There were numerous times, and then, of course, the Adam and the apple situation, I thought, well, let's give it one more shot and try and see. And of course, the next attempt I was suckered in. I was suckered in, you know. I can't say anything more than that.
Sounds like you're still beating yourself up over this.
Because I should have known better. I should have known better. I was not a novice. I had a law background. I'd been in international investment banking for many, many years. I should have known that when a deal is too good to be true, it isn't true. I should have realized it. But it was in the early days of these scam operations, the very early days, and there hadn't been a great deal of publicity about it. And I was caught. Today, one is much more aware of these things. We each get scam calls on the telephone all the time. I'm sure you get them.
I got suckered in earlier this year as well. It only cost me $200 or so, but still, I was beating myself up just the same way you are, because I'm smarter than that, you know?
Exactly. And of course, you when you discuss this with friends, afterwards they'll look at you as if you're a lunatic. Well, you know that you should have known better.
Yeah.
But so there's an embarrassment as well as the shame, and of course the loss of time and money.
Right. Let's talk about the book here for a second. How easy was this to turn this true story into fiction for you?
It took time. Because even coming from so great a writer as Howard Robbins, one is initially a little bit defensive about what one's written, and so one's being challenged. And I had to put it on hold for some time before taking up his advice and redoing it as fiction. It was a struggle at first, and there was a resistance to it, but then I got into it, and I did it. And then it went through the various rounds of editing and changes, and it is what it is now. But it was hard first to overcome the factor that I had to redo it, and then the actual redoing it was hard. But then during the editing process, one got into the swing of it.
Helps if you have a really good editor, doesn't it?
Yes, indeed, indeed. But with editors, as so many authors will admit, when they recommend something, the initial reaction is generally to be defensive. But after 2 or 3 days, you think, oh my God, the editor was right, you know, because they see it from a different perspective. They see it from their side of the desk, which is representing the publisher and the reader, whereas the author is so totally absorbed, he doesn't see it that way.
Right. Now, you'd written 5 other books prior to this.
Yes.
How different was this from the other books that you've written in terms of writing it?
The other books that I have written were mostly historical fiction. But I hadn't written before what could be described as an international thriller. So that was new. That was new for me. And I hadn't written a book before that involved so much international travel over a condensed period of time. Obviously, those books which were of historical